I'm still running an IT company. So part of my background is cost accounting. I'm a cost accountant, cost management accountant. And I got in this industry because I wrote software for the industry. But the business I got in was all about water damage and water mitigation. So from the very early stages in 2014, I got in this industry. I learned how to make contractors more productive, how they can communicate with their customers, how they can use apps to do it, and we designed our own app called the ACE. We call it ACE. It was accurate content estimators, so ACE. So that's how I got in this industry. So even though there are multiple companies, it's in search of this one idea, which is water mitigation and water restoration. So that's what we do. Hopefully by next year, a lot of these companies are going to just be able to collapse and just make it into one company. But that's kind of the explanation. So I'm not doing multiple jobs. I'm only doing one job, which is water damage restoration. Now, what is water damage restoration? Water is not something that people are afraid of. Nobody comes in and says, oh my God, I got water here. We actually have water in our body, right? So we have water in our body. We celebrate water. So water is not the issue. The issue is mold. So my business is really about protecting you and your family from mold. And there might be other toxins. So when you think about referring us, you're actually referring us to protect your friends and your loved ones from mold that is a result of water. So here is something that never happens. That's a toilet completely flooded all the way, like 3 feet of water. That never happens. What generally happens is a plumber comes in, fixes your toilet, and says everything is fine, and maybe you even mop up the little bit of water that's there, and that's all you see. That's my referral. Because what has happened is water has, during the process, when it leaked, the water has gotten between building materials. So we call it invisible water. So there are multiple examples of it. There's another one behind the toilet. So there was once a leak. It's a wooden floor. You can see dark patches. So waters have leaked in. Okay. So we never see bulk water. We just see water that has gotten, that is no longer visible. That's why we call it invisible water. But the effect of it is within 48 hours, you start to smell. There's that musty smell. You've been walked into a hotel room, especially one of those, when you're driving at night and you pull off the freeway and you see this motel and walk in and you pay $30 and you're happy about it, but you're not quite sure about the room and you smell it. That musty smell is the smell of mold. So no kidding. A perfect referral for me is a plumber has just done their job, but there's still some water there, and now you can smell mold. Okay. So how does mold look like? Well, in some cases, the mold is hidden behind the baseboard, right? So as long as there's moisture there, because the moisture is now trapped between the building materials, it's under the floor, it's absorbed by the drywall, mold is now growing. And then the mold spores start spreading. So that's really the key, is the reason why you refer us is because of mold, not because of that we're going to come in and save you from a flood. We never get called in California for somebody's flood, right? Now here's some of the tools that we use. So I brought some show and tell. So if I look at a floor and it looks completely dry, I can still detect if there's moisture below it. And we use a camera. It's a thermal camera. So it checks for temperature differences. So this is kind of what it looks like. And right there, so there's a little spot right up here, which looks suspicious. It's just a water stain, like a little brown spot, right? But then with the camera, it actually reveals how much water is trapped there. So 2 indications, if you see brown spots, you see stains, you see a little bit of water, and you smell mold. So there it is. So these are some of the issues that happens. A plumber comes in, replaces the toilet, or there's a supply leak, like your dishwasher, um, refrigerator, they have clean water coming in. They leaked, the water got absorbed by the floor. You come back and now you can smell some mold and you don't know what it is and you're not really, that's a perfect referral for us. We come in with a thermal camera. So we use this thermal camera, which can detect water. It uses temperature. The second thing we use is we prepare a very exhaustive report for your insurance. This is a typical tool set that we carry with us, right? So what it does is it measures the water content in the air. So right now it's telling me that 65% of the air in this room has moisture, so relative humidity. But then I have a second device that works together. It actually will detect water that is higher, maybe trapped in the building materials, like under the floor or in the wall or whatever. So together we use both of these and we prepare a table that insurance companies are by law, mandated by law, to reimburse you for treating it and remediating it. And that's called a psychrometric table. So we create a psychrometric chart that shows where the moisture is, what damage it could do, the mold part of it, the rot that happens. And then we prepare a complete documentation. It's quite extensive. And that's really probably like 70% of our work is paperwork. It's a lot of paperwork and a lot of data. And we feed that into our software. We generate all the graphs and everything, and we turn it to insurance. And that results in a claim being accepted by the insurance company, covered by it. And then they pay you to tear out that floor, to tear out that drywall, to dry the place, and then replace it. Without it, insurance companies will not do anything. They will give you some excuse. They'll even misdirect you. The biggest thing I've noticed is, which I don't understand why, when you call your friend, the insurance agent who was happy to sell you insurance, the biggest thing they'll tell you is don't make a claim. That's the first thing they tell you. And you're like, but it's like being told you're in a car and you're in an accident and the guy you bought the car insurance from says, don't get it fixed. Don't call the insurance company. Don't do this, don't do that. So what's the point then of having a car insurance, right? So homeowners insurance is similar to car insurance. When accidents happen, people like us come in, do a complete objective assessment, prepare all the data, submit it to the insurance company, and then permission to get it all repaired. So but the biggest thing that triggers everything is mold. If there was just water, we would never get a job.
Do the insurance company love you guys or hate you guys?
Well, by law, we are both regulated by the same Department of Insurance. We're both certified by them. And by law, they are supposed to do their job, which is to protect the property. When they don't protect the property, by letting the water stay there, you have rot, wood rot, and you have mold, and it just makes it very unhealthy. And then what they will do is, when you go to sell the house, or you have to have a home inspection or something, and you tell the insurance company, hey, this happened. It says, when did it happen? Or it happened 2 years ago. Well, they'll say the contract says, the insurance policy contract says, you as a homeowner are responsible for drying the place up, for taking care of it. And you didn't do your job, so they're off the hook.
Value of your
So the way this insurance policy works is that if you have an accident in the house and you call the plumber fixed the leak, but it's still moisture there, you should have us inspected. Generally, the inspection is free. We give you a free inspection, give you enough information, and then you decide, hey, it's worth it to make a claim. You make the claim, you just fulfill your responsibility as a homeowner, as your part of the contract. And then we force the insurance company to complete it. So do they like us? Yes, no, depending on the insurance company. Because at the end of the day, everybody has to keep their part of the bargain.
Are you able to determine with some degree of accuracy when the mold started or when the damage started or something like that? Because I can imagine that in different cases, it may take a little while to start smelling, or
Yeah.
it might be, and if it's a small leak, it might take a while to spread.
Right. So the question really is, how do we deal with the fact that the mold only takes 48 hours for the molds to start happening. And then with 72 hours, it's very, very dense. So, and usually most people don't call us. within the first 3 days. They don't call us.
Right.
Sometimes they call like after 6 months, sometimes 3 months later. Well, here's the thing, insurance company wrote an exclusion in your policy for mold. They're not gonna cover mold anyway. The problem with the insurance policy, most insurance policy, unless you change your policy and add an amendment to it and pay extra, mold is never covered. So you are calling us to protect you from mold. Your insurance policy doesn't cover mold, but it does cover the moisture. So as part of our service, we clean the mold. We're liable to clean the mold because we want to leave a healthy environment for you. So we will use what we call antimicrobial treatment, basically remove the mold. And most of the time we have to dispose of it. There's really no cleaning per se. So we'll take that drywall, we'll take that baseboard and throw it, and then have the building insurance company to replace it. So at the end of the day, you get mold treatment without having mold coverage.
Do you, have any type of, or companies like yourself have any type of advertisement that, advises, especially residents, homeowners, that you need to detect your home for mold for your family's sake? For your business?
We don't, I mean, there are companies that do home inspection. They advertise a lot about it. We generally depend on referrals. So our marketing is primarily referral. So we work with plumbers because we follow them. So plumbers generally are there. So we work with plumbers and we educate plumbers, and hopefully the plumbers will. The good thing about our company is we actually have a plumbing license. We're not plumbers, but we have a plumbing license because we have a plumber on as one of the owners. And it came from BTN.
Ricky, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So BTN, by the way, is a testimonial for BTN. It actually will launch your business for you.
Is there a difference between mildew and mold, or is that just different stages of mold?
They're completely different things.
They're two different things.
Yeah.
Is there on the typical insurance contract, is there like a time period that you have to report this? And
Yeah, so insurance company will tell you different things, but the time period is generally whatever is reasonable. So here's how a time period starts. So Paul had a leak in his house. And then Paul was very busy. He went out, did whatever, and then he had a vacation schedule. He took his vacation. He's been out for a month. He comes back, and now he starts to smell. So it's been like 2 months. The moment you notice is when the clock starts.
okay,
So it doesn't matter that the leak happened 2 months ago and you were too busy to deal with it, but you didn't notice any damage. But the moment you realize there's mold and there's damage, that's when
yeah,
you
that's when
report
the
it.
clock
Yeah.
starts, okay.
So that's what happens with most homeowners. It could be 3 months old, it could be 2 months old. Insurance company will tell you that you have to take reasonable precautions to protect your house. And if you've been, if you ignored maintenance, if you've done, things like this, then insurance company will say, well, you can't do anything because you are liable also.
The insidious ones are the old cast iron drain lines that crack.
Yes,
And it only leaks when you use the plumbing up above.
there you
And you
go.
don't, and it's just a little bit, but it can be, anyway, when we open up walls, all of a sudden, we go, wow, there it is.
Yeah. The tiny pinprick, go ahead.
Right.
A couple things. One is a testimonial. I've worked with AJ. He helped a client of mine out and they're awesome. I had a client down in Mission Viejo who had a leak insurance claim. They denied the claim. Then I got involved. They had a bunch of damage, water, called AJ out. They went out immediately. They were out there multiple times in a week, just checking, making sure everything's looking good. Figured that out. Then after that, I said, hey, they have contents because they do a lot of personal property contents as well. They have some that are damaged. Okay, let me send out my person that does that. Did a full evaluation. Literally, the whole claim went super smooth. We got paid on pretty much everything. So they're really awesome. I've seen all of this equipment actually in person working. It really does work as he said it does. It's really cool. So they're really good. And then just to touch on, Paul, what you were talking about, some of the problems with those types of things right now, at least from my experience, State Farm is the worst insurance company out there for that exactly that thing. Is that they are taking the position that anytime there's a leak, they're denying it right now because they're saying it's a long-term leak. So every pretty much homeowner's insurance policy is gonna say that we don't cover, if they call it a continuous or repeating leakage or seepage of water, was just a fancy phrase for long-term leak. Most policies say of 14 days or more, so they actually put a time frame. The State Farm policy doesn't put a time frame, it just says continuous, repeated leakage or seepage of water, which, and then they deny it, say, oh, look, there is mold, this must have been a long-term leak, we're denying it, and then you hear AJ say, okay, well, mold can happen in 48 hours, so it doesn't mean this was a long-term leak. And again, when there's no time frame, my argument is that's certainly ambiguous. I mean, something can leak repeatedly for 2 minutes. I mean, technically it's a repeated leak. So that's why sometimes you'll see they'll make a claim, insurance company, they'll come in and say, this happened a long time ago, evidenced by mold, we're not covering it, but that's when we can kind of set and see what we can do, but that's something to think about. But yeah, definitely make the claim as soon as you can. So otherwise the insurance company, they say, we're prejudiced, we didn't know about it, that's harming us, so.
Yeah, the cool thing about us versus you going direct to insurance company is we already know about all these exclusions. We've already worked with people like Elon. So we know what an attorney is looking at. We are reading the insurance coverage. I mean, part of the education is you have to get really good at reading insurance coverage. And you have to advise the client what their coverage is. Do they have enough coverage? They don't have enough coverage. When they should hire an attorney. So all of that, so the first thing we advise the homeowner is don't call the insurance company yet. Let us give you the free inspection, let us do the free assessment, let us tell you, and I tell you, like 70% of the time, I tell the homeowner not to file for insurance claim. 70% of the time. Because it goes on their record. And if it's a minor claim that's $2,000 to $3,000, they could do some do-it-yourself. We could give them some tips. They could even rent some of the equipment that we use from Home Depot. They can avoid the whole. They can mitigate the problem. They can take care of it, and avoid this whole thing. So they can be ready for a big catastrophe. But insurance is very, very difficult unless you have the premium insurance like Chubb and from the insurance company. So there are companies that are different. The coverage costs the same, but there are insurance companies that are fantastic, and there are insurance companies that are terrible.
Really, but not much of a premium
Not much of a
difference.
difference.
So good ones are Chubb. Who else have you?
Well, that's a good one that I know of. The other ones I'm kind of like in the middle. There's so many small ones, and then Kevin can probably help with that. There's but the ones at the bottom are the major players, the State Farm, the Farmers. AAA is probably the worst.
Really?
Of all of them.
That's what I have.
I know. We were told that our insurance premium are gonna be cheaper, but when you look at it in a yearly base, maybe it's $200 cheaper. And then the aggravation they give you when you have to actually file a claim. It's
This
crazy.
is why when insurance companies charge less premium, this is when you test them. So in all insurance, you'll find out why a carrier is cheaper when it comes to testing them on a claim.
Yeah, so you need Kevin on your side, and you need to kind of go over that. You need to look at options, but we never recommend that you go directly to insurance company. Because what most homeowners do is they just open their heart and they say everything. And once they say everything, all they need is out of the 20 things you talked about, 3 of those were excluded explicitly in your policy, but you never read your policy. You don't even have a copy of your policy.
Tiny letters. Right.
Yeah.
And even if you read it, you might not even understand it.
Yeah, so you're not gonna, it's 65 pages. So you're like, you didn't read it and you don't even have a copy of it. And you just thought the insurance agent and the agent can't do anything. So there's 2 different things. They're like the yin and yang of insurance business. So the guy who sold you the policy is absolutely the worst guy to tell you about the claim. So when you file a claim, you're dealing with a completely different set of people. And they are not on your side. They by law, by job, their nature of their job, they're going to look for exclusions. Not because they want to save the company money or anything like this, but because they don't want to be incompetent. If you tell them things, you've basically admitted that it's supposed to be excluded. And why would they go back and risk their job with their superior or somebody else, because you might repeat it again. Even if they want to help you out, you might repeat the same thing to their superior, their manager. And now the manager is saying, why did you allow this claim? It was excluded.
You have
So-
the right to remain.
You know, AJ, it sounds just from listening to you speak that one good differentiator for you, for your business might be your in-depth knowledge about insurance and claims.
And insurance
and
policy. yeah.
guiding a homeowner,
True,
because
yeah.
as homeowners, we all have insurance.
Yeah.
Right, by law. And I could imagine that another restorative company might just wanna come in, clean up and get out, and they don't care about, any
Right.
of that. But it sounds like a big part of what you do is advising and being a trusted advisor for a homeowner. So
Yeah.
I would say if you don't already,
Yeah.
I don't know, play that up in how you interact with your customers.
True.
So this is something that Tonya has been working really, really hard. So one of the things that I did, learning from, is this Scan Me. So it actually, we created our own. So as we're learning about the policies, about mold and all this stuff, and plus there are documents available from CDC and FEMA and California Department of Health. So we've started to create these guides, and what I'm trying to do is, if you notice the postcard, this is the first thing I had to learn, was to explain to the homeowner how the process works. Because they've never been through a process.
A process
So-
what?
Of how the process works.
Oh,
in
how the
insurance.
process works. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, so here. So basically, I walk them through this. And then I'm hoping to put there's a resource stamp right there, where it would actually take them to these pages and they can download a guide and they can read it. Even when we do estimates, we attach the homeowner's rights from the state of California Department of Insurance. So here's the 15 things that you have rights toward, because it's very intimidating and people are busy. Insurance company completely mislead you. The first, I've actually heard homeowners filing, it's put on speakerphone, filing a claim, and the Mercury insurance agent telling them, that's another, it's one of the worst ones, telling them, you don't need to file this, you don't need to file this, just pay out of pocket, this is not worth filing. The claim agent telling you on the phone, they haven't even heard the whole story. And they're telling the homeowner.
But
So-
homeowners they're just programmed to want to make sure that the exclusions that apply, that is, they're covered before they get service. Like they want to make sure
Yeah,
the insurance is gonna cover it before they call
right.
a service.
Right, and they're afraid that they're gonna be left with a huge bill. But we
Yeah.
don't work that way. We are gonna give you information, we're gonna take the time, we're gonna explain it. All those things don't cost you any money. You're not signing a contract. But apparently there are a lot of people who do that, I know there's a lot of fraud where they make you sign assignment of benefits, all kinds of stuff. So.
Yeah, I get all the time calls that I made a claim. I got a restoration company that was sent out. They did a bunch of work. And then the insurance company denied the claim, and then I got a $10,000 bill. And they're like, what do I do? I'm like, well, did you sign something? Yeah, I signed the contract. I'm like, well, it does say that you will pay if the insurance company denies, so it's kind of tough. Oh, what do you mean? And it's a tough situation. But yeah, they definitely don't work like that, so.
Yeah, so this is the first postcard we give out, we explain the process to them. We also involve environmental testing labs. So we don't certify that you have mold, even though we can observe it. We'll bring in a company that will check for asbestos, lead, mold, any toxins in your house, and they'll give you a report. And that's covered by insurance. We make sure insurance pays for that. Sometimes we have to pay the environmental company out of pocket first, and wait 90 days or 180 days before the insurance company pays us.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, the insurance company does, they never pay on time.
These labs though are kind of approved by most insurance companies. Is that the deal?
Not by insurance company, they're certified on their own by EPA.
Yeah.
So they're independent labs that they're
Insurance
used by
company
architects,
basically
by
buys
construction.
into their qualifications.
I'm sorry?
The insurance company, it sounds like they basically buy into their qualifications.
They have to, because, so we hold them accountable to the law, just like everybody should be accountable to the law. You have a contract, and who's gonna enforce the contract? So when you don't know, they kind of make you skip over some of the terms, so.
This is great.
Yeah.
I
Can you
think
detect,
little visuals
radon
like this are
contamination?
Really good.
No, but the lab will. We don't detect anything. We can just make an inspection, and then once we find things, we will recommend a lab to you, and the lab will. So they will do mold, they'll do radon, they'll do everything. We tell them the minimum that we need asbestos and lead,
Right.
but they will do whatever you need. because
Radon's
those-
extra. It's a
Yeah,
whole.
they'll do it. But they're independent labs. And they do it before and after. So they do it, then after the work is done, they'll come back in and they'll test it again to see if it's really safe.
And
Right.
AJ, AJ, I have a quick question. What is the geographical coverage for coastal?
Well, we say we're gonna go up to 50 miles, but we'd rather,
Okay.
Anaheim is our headquarters, so we go around 25 miles around the area.